Good morning. Thank you for joining me here today. My name is Lynn Bamford, and I'm privileged to serve as the Chief Learning Officer at North Shore University Health System. In case you're wondering where that is, we are in the suburban Chicago area, just north of Chicago, all the way up to Milwaukee. And we've got about 10,000 people within our system. And we have had an interesting dilemma over time in terms of finding a way to stem the turnover of the entry-level jobs that are so critical to a healthcare system. And so we identified a handful of positions that tend to have a lot of turnover, as much as 20 to 30% over the course of a year. And when we took a deeper dive to try to understand what was happening, our exit interview data revealed that for these folks, there was no real career path that was visible to them. And they perceived that there were limited development options. And so when the market is healthy, these folks who are making, probably $14, $15, $16 an hour, then have an opportunity or seek opportunities to actually hop to other employment positions and opportunities. So our mission was to try to see what we could do to create greater visibility into these career paths and development options for this particular population. So to give you a little idea of the current state at North Shore, we have about 2,000 job codes for about 10,000 employees. And our job descriptions are, truthfully, in my 20 plus years of business experience, just about the ugliest thing that I have ever seen in terms of a corporate document. We are actually using something from the Stone Age, a 7-page Excel template that has lots of detail, lots of tactical information. They are not competency-based, and the job grade that are sort of deeply embedded in our systems that are tied to compensation are not apparent at all or visible in the job description. So it's very difficult to figure out, from one job to the next, is it a promotion? And despite the fact that we've got 2,000 job codes for 10,000 employees, there are very few families, job families that would be, like a phlebotomist number 1 and then 2 and then 3, that would allow some kind of career progression, right? So you would get a promotion and the opportunity for more pay. So our current state, needs a little work and provides some challenges. And so this is sort of the story of, how do you meet your organization where it is, and then, try to see what we can do to get to the next level and address the challenges ahead. So part of the solution is that we designed a Career Navigator web page. And again, the goal was to provide greater visibility into career paths and development options. And so what we did is we looked back on 5 years of historical data for these 5 key roles, and we were able to actually articulate how people moved in the past. So essentially, for the folks who stayed within the organization, they were able to articulate their own career path. And in the absence, of having a, more unified approach across the organization, we thought this is a really interesting story for people to tell. So that was part of our story. And then we could able to show if you were a patient care technician, those are the folks that help the nurses in the hospital system. Where did they go? What move did they make? And then we took the 7-page ugly job description and actually condensed that down to a 1-pager, so people could get a flavor for the environment that they'd be working in and have an understanding of what the essential duties of the job would be, as well as the educational requirements. And this is really important for this population because most of the folks who join us in these entry-level jobs don't have college degrees. And the really wonderful thing about healthcare is that this is still an organization that provides opportunity for people with high school graduates, as high school graduates. Most of my career was spent in financial services before moving to healthcare a few years ago, and that just wasn't the case. You know, the cost of admission was essentially a college degree. And so the opportunity to really leverage and create these paths and long-term opportunities for folks is really, you know, still something that's wonderful within the healthcare field. So We launched the website last October, and what we did is to try to create a little bit of splash around it. We found that there was broad interest and engagement, and people said this is fantastic. It's kind of about time. Frankly, it was the undercurrent, but that's okay. We also posted a survey on the website and asked for feedback. And people have been very helpful in terms of saying this is great, but what about this? Could we add to it? In the request to expand beyond the pilot, which to me is a good thing, a good indicator that people find the format interesting. And we have worked closely with our HR partners to actually get the word out in some of our career fairs. And so I have a quote here from one of the students and parents who attended a career fair in our Evanston area, that students and parents were surprised to learn about the number of opportunities available for high school grads with or without a little bit of training. So some excitement and some buzz certainly as the early read from this. And we're also starting to use the tool in the interviewing that we're doing for these key 5 positions. And we're also sharing it with these folks in these roles as they onboard, to let them know that, we're happy to have them here and, want them to seek meaningful careers over time. And so in terms of lessons learned, this was lots of eye-opening for me here. What we found is that we looked at our data from our human resource system, and it wasn't very good. We were concerned that it wasn't necessarily accurate. And my HR partner and I said, I'm not sure if we can really, tell much story with the data here. But my team actually pressed back on me and said, let's go back further. We looked at maybe 18 months of data to see what story does this tell in terms of these career moves. And they said, that's not enough. If the data is not accurate, let's go back. And so literally they convinced me to go back for 5 years. We went through a scrubbing process to actually make sure that the data was accurate. And so I think we got to a really good place with that, but it wasn't my first inclination to dive in and use the data. So for me, it was, the big aha was make sure I listen to my team and my people, who are more comfortable perhaps with the data, and created a really interesting story to tell. Be creative, use color and design and strong visuals, and launch, go ahead. I mean, this was a big investment from our perspective. We spent nearly a year working on this. Create some splash at launch. And one of the things that we tagged onto were our annual employee benefit fairs. So I actually took my laptop out there and, met our folks around the system and did the demos live for them, again, to kind of create some buzz. And then we had a nice flyer that was available for them to take away and find the website on their own. So that was a nice partnership. And speaking of partnerships, we also invited our educational partners to come. So instead of it just being an employee benefit fair where you're going to, check in on your flexible spending account and your health care next year, it became a little mini college fair, a little mini career fair. And so it, again, I think it created a lot of buzz. And like with any change effort, you can't just do it once and move forward. We are planning a campaign to remind and reinforce people. We will be attending future wellness and benefits fairs. And the thing that we've also started doing this month is partnering my team members from the learning and development function together with my team that does the training on the electronic medical records, that spends a lot of time out and about in the system. And so the two of them, for the first time, are actually able to work together, and we call it rounding, where they're going around to different departments across the hospital's different units, and they're actually, grabbing that patient care technician or the nurse manager and saying, hey, have you got 2 minutes? We want to show you this career Navigator tool. So they're going through that to again, sort of keep things alive in our process and keep the interest. So metrics, everybody always wants to know metrics, and I am passionate about this as well. So we've got a plan here to track a number of things. So first is the number of visits to our Career Navigator site. And we we found that we had over 2,000 people actually get into the site the month that we launched it in October, and then of course about 200 afterwards in the ensuing months. But now we're seeing a bump again since the teams have been out in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll track the number of visits on the site. We will also track the overall retention and the mobility of the 5 jobs that we are focused on here. We also will track enrollment in tuition assistance programs, which are linked on our site. And we are in a process where we do annual employee engagement survey, and we have a handful of questions that link to perceptions of development opportunities and career path. So namely, North Shore provides career development opportunities, and there's questions around your intention to stay over a 3 to 5 year period. So I think all told, this will give us an interesting picture of the usage and the impact of the site. So stay tuned, more to come, but we've at least begun the journey.